Welcome to Scary Storytime by SpookyBoo. www.scarystorytime.com. The Blood Moon Rituals by SpookyBoo. I'm sure you've heard there was a blood moon last night. A super blue blood moon. I don't know if you know what that means, but a blue moon is the second full moon of the month. It has nothing to do with the color of the moon. You've heard the phrase once in a blue moon, right? The super is because it's so close to Earth during its elliptic orbit and looks larger than normal. The term blood moon is a lunar eclipse which turns the moon red. Okay, it's usually kind of an orange color, but you get the idea. It was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to see an event like this. I wasn't going to miss it. I live in the desert where the only light is the moon. I turned off all of my lights in the house and yard so I could get the best view. I went out to watch it. I was like all the others in the world who went out from 3 to 6 in the morning to see this exciting event. At first, it was really super bright. So bright that I couldn't see anything for the first few minutes after looking at it. Then it looked bigger and bigger, and the eclipse started. Slowly, the shadow of the earth covered the moon until it was dark red. It went from super light outside to really dark. It was so pretty. I must have fallen asleep in the cozy blankets and foam mattress I put out in the back of my truck because I awoke to this weird chanting. I always thought my neighbors were weird, but tonight I have no words for their behavior. Murderers? Cult members? I have never met them face to face, and I'm not sure they even knew who I was before tonight. As I was laying down in the back of the truck, they couldn't see me, but I had a full view of their backyard. Where we live, there aren't a lot of trees, and I could see right into their yard even though it isn't very close. I noticed a bunch of people wearing what looked to be red robes standing around a big fire. They were chanting something, but it was too far away to hear exactly what they were saying or what language it was in. I peered with the binoculars and noticed they were moving back and forth, swaying side by side into each other and holding hands. The chanting grew louder and louder until someone rode up on a motorcycle. As he stepped off his bike and held out his arms, 2 of the chanters covered him in a black robe. I watched as they swayed to and fro in some kind of a trance as he spoke. I couldn't hear what he was saying or even what their faces looked like while they worshipped him, but I'm sure they were in some sort of self-hypnotic state. They held their arms up toward the moon and began chanting loudly. This I could hear. The sacrifice for the blood moon is here. Kill her, kill her. A woman wearing one of the red robes was pushed out from the crowd and landed face first in front of the leader. She kneeled before him and then slowly rose as the 2 helpers pulled her to her feet. They yanked the robe from her body, and she stood almost naked in front of the leader. The only thing covering her was a sarong around her hips. She held her arms up in the air and began to dance as they tossed some form of a liquid on her. The woman didn't seem to care at all. The man said something that I couldn't hear, and the robed members shouted, "In his name, in his name." The 2 helpers grabbed her arms, and suddenly she began to scream. They pushed her toward the fire with the leader following behind. It looked like they strapped her to a pole and tied her arms behind her back. I stared in horror as the fire started underneath her and began to climb up her body. Whatever they put on her must have ignited the flames. As she screamed, I dialed 911. The cops weren't close at all, but I was outnumbered. I knew by the time I drove my truck toward them, she would be dead and I would be murdered. As I hit the last digit, I watched and suddenly they all looked down at their phones. I could hear them ringing. They looked at each other and around the barren field until they saw my truck and started running towards me. I jumped into the driver's seat of my truck and left that place. I'm still traveling as I write this and I don't know when I'll stop. I did pull a bunch of cash out of the ATM this morning, as much as it could dispense, but that won't last long. All but one of my credit cards were canceled this morning by an unknown source, and now I'm afraid to use the working card for they could be tracking me. I'm alone and scared. Please, if you have any ideas, let me know. Help me. This is SpookyBoo. If you enjoyed that story, let me know by giving it a thumbs up or making a comment. Also, I'd love to hear your stories. Send them in to scarystoriesonvideo@gmail.com, or you can start an account at Scary Storytime and send it in that way. I'm off to watch my favorite show, Creature Features, now. You can watch it with me at www.creaturefeatures.tv.
When you are admitted into a hospital, they place on your wrist a white wristband with your name on it. But there are other different colored wristbands which symbolize other things. The red wristbands are placed on dead people. There was one surgeon who worked on the night shift in a school hospital. He had just finished his operation and was on his way down to the basement. He entered the elevator, and there was just one other person there. He casually chatted with the woman while the elevator descended. When the elevator doors opened, another woman was about to enter when the doctor slammed the close button and punched the button to the highest floor. Surprised, the woman reprimanded the doctor for being rude and asked why he did not let the other woman in. The doctor said, "That was the woman I just operated on. She died while I was doing the operation. Didn't you see her red wristband that she was wearing?" The woman smiled and raised her arm and said, "Something like this?"
My sister had a teddy bear, a scary teddy bear. I do not know why, but it creeped me out. It was just so disturbing to me. The thing had eyes that looked so real. It was as if it was made from a real bear, and its face was just blank and unsettling. I first started to get weird feelings about the bear when my sister first got it. She was only a baby at the time, and I was about 4. We had a dog, you see, and he had a habit of eating things, so my mother always had to put it up on the small cabinet in the corner of the hallway upstairs. Every time I went up those stairs, I saw that creepy bear suddenly glare around the corner at me, as if it was watching me. This wasn't the weird part. It started to get really weird about 5 years later. At the age of 6 or 7, my sister had lost interest in the bear, so my mother just threw it in the old toy cupboard. The only problem was that the cupboard was in my room. When I was 9, old enough to stay on my own and go to bed without any assistance, I would get into my bed every night and turn my lamp off. This is when it got scary. As if I was getting some sleep, I suddenly remembered Mum putting that teddy bear in the cupboard. I slowly turned to look over across my room to see it through the glass. My heart suddenly stopped as I thought about the horror the plush had caused me. But at the age of 9, I wanted to grow up and lose my fears, so I just shook it off and put my head on my pillow. When I got up to pull my sheets on a bit further, I noticed something that would scar me for life. There sat, at the end of my bedroom, the teddy bear. The heart started beating normally again. I sat there staring at it for about a minute. When I needed to yawn, I closed my eyes. I opened them to see the teddy sitting closer to my bed. At this point, I was really freaked out. I started to move back to the wall and looked around to see if there was any sign that anyone had come in. When I looked back to see the teddy on the end of the bed, I was so startled that I almost fainted from fear. When I blinked, it had gone. I looked around. To my relief, I saw no sign of it. I sat my head back down on my pillow, hoping for some sleep. Then, I opened my eyes. It was above my head, staring straight down. I screamed as it lunged down at me. I will never see a bear the same way again. A few years later, after years of horror, I burned it. I sat in enjoyment as the bear was turned to smoking ashes in my fireplace. I have lived my teenage life through adolescence. The only thing I could remember that was in any way similar to my bad experience was when I watched Trainspotting. That fucking baby scene shocked me so badly. But other than that, all was well. When I turned 19, I was about to move into my new home. I had been given the keys to the house and was ready to set up my furniture. After hours of carrying, I carried the final box from the removal truck into the front door and shut the door behind me. I turned to go into the kitchen and put it on the table. I opened it to see a cabinet. I took it out, walked into my new living room and placed it in the corner. Stared at it and thought to myself, I don't remember packing this cabinet. I didn't really care that much, as I had just moved into my new home. I walked back into the kitchen to grab my television and brought it into the living room. When I saw it, the teddy, it just sat there, staring at me.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment below. All feedback, good or otherwise, is always appreciated. If you have any creepy stories of your own, or have any topics that you would like me to cover, feel free to send them in via any of my social media. You can find all links to my social media in the description below. Until next time guys, make sure you lock your doors, stay safe, and I'll see you next video.